Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
This is your host, Alicia Debrell from Insight Media. Today's guest is Tamra, also known as the Bridge Fakhoorian. She helps business leaders bridge the gap between management and disengaged employees. She helps managers and C-suite to build a strong, sturdy bridge of free-flowing communication, mutual respect, and a coaching mentality, rather than a fear-based one. The results are happier, more engaged, effective employees and leaders, and will ultimately end up with a greater net profit for the company. So, without further ado, I want to welcome Tamra to the show. Hi, Tamra. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Thanks, Alicia. Thanks for inviting me.
This will be great. You've got a ton of experience. So tell the audience a little bit about who you are and your business experience.
Well, I'm a business coach and that focuses on emotional intelligence as part of soft skills. I've actually coached leaders in over 80 companies in the sectors of manufacturing, bioscience, education, and nonprofits. I focus on the critical leadership competencies including conflict management, self-awareness, communications, innovation management, and even strategic planning.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long few years here, a couple of decades at it. In addition, prior to coaching, I started at the bottom of the ladder and worked my way up to CFO of a manufacturing firm over the course of 17 years. And during that time, I co-initiated numerous startups myself, so I really understand the nuts and bolts and the heart that goes into conceptualizing, planning, and implementing new business projects. The most recent one that I've worked on is a $200 million project in Asia over the past couple of years. As a co-founder, I helped develop our corporate vision, and I led consulting teams on R&D projects in 5 countries simultaneously. So I got a lot of culture shock jumping from one country to the next. Yeah, I love communication. So in that company, I also ended up, you wear a lot of different hats. I ended up leading the corporate vision and communications. And so it helped me round out what skill sets I didn't know, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ultimately ended up with a company that is now getting their second round of funding, and I'm very excited to have been a part of that. For now, I'm working with business owners and managers and the C-suite on all aspects of business and leadership. But like I said, I really am focused on soft skills, is bridging the gap to disengaged employees.
So tell me this, with all that experience, what made you want to get into coaching?
Well, I found that every role I had, every job I took, project I took on, I ended up coaching my peers and my employees. So I went ahead and decided to get official about it, and I got my formal ICF, International Coaching Federation, affiliated training through an organization called Work-Life Destinations. So now I'm a certified life coach. And now I use both my hard and soft skills to help business executives with building bridges to connect with their teams and their ultimate career goals.
What made you want to bridge the gap between the C-suite and their management? Why are you focusing on that?
But everybody's got horror stories when it comes to employment. I've got
a couple.
Yeah. Well, I've had a few myself, and I know how it feels to be viewed as a cog in the wheel, underpaid and overworked. And plus, most of the time, I didn't get to use my personal Wonder Woman power, that of being an innovator. And that was very frustrating for me. And another reason why I like helping bridge the gap is because I had my own false starts as a leader. And boy, oh boy, I had to learn through trial and error that it's entirely possible, though, to lead successfully from a place of mutual respect and united vision. Lisa, I bet you don't know this, but 71% of employees in the United States are unhappy enough at work to consider going job hunting. Did you know that?
Seriously?
Yeah, it just came out in the studies.
I had no idea what the numbers were. I mean, I knew they'd have to be somewhat high, but I had no idea.
Yeah, 71%. And 64% of employees feel overstressed and undersupported to the point that most of them self-medicate in the form of alcohol or even crying. There's a lot of room for improvement in the workplace. And I believe it starts with upper management.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just so compelled to help make the work experience better for everyone involved. And now that robots are coming into the picture, they're taking over repetitive jobs. The one thing that humans can do that robots cannot do is be truly human with a high emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, EI or EQ as they call it, leads to greater innovation. So robots can't innovate the way we can, so that's our card that we can hold. Now, maybe someday robots will be able to, but humans can innovate, which leads to products and services, right? And the business world needs empowered, happy, innovative employees to come up with these ideas. So let's treat robots like robots, and let's treat humans like humans.
I like it. So tell me this. What are the top 3 things that you find the C-suite executives and managers are having the most, personal challenges with as far as dealing with that position?
Good question. I'd say the top 3, giving credit where credit is due among their employees. And that's both on an emotional level and also on a financial level, as everyone can imagine. The second one would be empowering and trusting their employees. And the third would be providing for a work-life balance for themselves and their employees. In the U.S., we're working 60 and 70 hours a week, and we think that's normal. And, personal happiness, why do we have so much stress in our workplace and in our home life? We're working in meditation and so on, but it all starts at the job. We didn't have this stress back 150 years ago. Everyone was out in the farm and it was just the basics, right? Well, things have now gotten to where the stress levels are so crazy. And people are, like I said, over-medicating with alcohol. They're even crying just to relieve the stress of their workday. So there's lots of room for improvement.
So how do you come up with the right plan to help, bridge the gap between the leaders and the employees? What steps do you start with?
Well, let's talk about this metaphorically in the terms of bridges. I'll do interviews with my client, his leaders, peers, and learn to understand what the state of his current bridge is in. Is it solid? Is it shaky? Does it have major damage and need repair? Is it non-existent? Do we have to start from scratch? So we have a lot of one-on-one conversations between my client and myself and his boss. And then I'll start with some 360 assessments as baselines, and then perhaps do some shadow coaching on site and do side interviews. Sometimes a client discovers, and it isn't very often, but it is true that it's better not even to build or repair this particular bridge. My client's in the wrong side along the wrong river, and you'd be just happier elsewhere. Now, once we find out where the opportunities are for improvement for my client's bridge, then we can center in on which ones would make the most sense to work on first. One new, powerful, deeply ingrained habit at a time. Like, for example, Alicia, on January 1st, decided you were going to try to lose 10 pounds and jog a lot more, and you have all these New Year's resolutions, and you work on them all at the same time.
Yes, and actually I started them all over last week.
Science proves that a better way to do it is to pick one. Pick the primary one that will give you the most powerful effect and get that one down for at least 30 to 45 days. Just focus on that one. And once the neural pathways have been formed for that habit, then you can slowly move into another new habit.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it takes a certain amount of time to break a habit or to create a new one. It takes, what do they say, 21 days to 30 days to do that. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's, it varies depending on habit, but
Yeah.
I think it was 20 days to learn a new one and 30 days to break an old one, something like that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Okay, so tell me this. Why do you think most employees are unhappy and unproductive at work,
Well,
besides the stress?
Well, put yourself in employees' shoes or in your past history shoes. If employees don't feel valued or trusted, if they're underpaid, if they see their boss as getting credit for their hard work, productivity plummets. After all, what's the point? I can tell you a little short story.
Please.
About myself when I was married. One night, my husband and I were traveling to a casino, and he gave me some money and said, okay, I'm going to go play blackjack and you play the slots. That's what you like to do, and that's what I like to do. And at the end of the evening, if you win any money, you have to give it to me.
Oh.
Why? Because I don't know, you might just waste it. I'm going to pay family bills with it. I said, yeah, but I'm invested in my family. I'll pay bills just as easily as you can. He said, no, I'll take the money. So I thought real hard, and I thought, this is really not going to give me much motivation to gamble, right? So I said, well, how about if we go 50-50? If I win money, I'll give you half of it.
Love the negotiation.
Yeah. Well, he said, okay, I guess. And then I thought a little more, and I said, so that means if you win, you're going to give me 50% of your money, right? What do you think his answer was? So the bottom line is, if we are not, I felt like an employee at that point. When he said, no, I'm keeping everything. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine. That was his mentality. So what did I do that night? Ooh. I went to the casino with him. I got myself a gin and tonic, and I sat there and watched the band play all evening. I didn't even gamble because, what's the point, right? With this comes into a business setting. Let's make sure that our employees feel valued, trusted, that they're paid for their good work. And above all, let's not take credit for their wins. Let's give them some wins.
Definitely. So do you find that there's common denominators in different industries, or do you find the reason that people are unhappy at work are generally the same, no matter whether it be Starbucks or a shoeing company to an internet company?
Well, there's minor variations on the theme depending on who the leaders are, but across the board, I would have to say that all industries have one thing in common: humanity. So you run into the same issues everywhere.
Okay. And how do you address the situation where the job board is online and full of negative comments about, what it's like and how it's working at that particular company? How do you address that kind of situation when you got a lot of negativity from the top?
This is popping up more and more. It's costing the company their reputation and their long-term ability to attract top talent, because that talent will read those reviews and go, oh, I'm not going to work for them, right? So ultimately, we're talking money, because if the company cannot attract top talent, they're going to lose out on innovation to their competitors. So I see this situation as a hands-on emergency. I'd physically go into that company as a shadow coach and get a vibe for their culture to start. I would choose strategic interviews, starting with the CEO right down to the janitor, and possibly suppliers and customers. Then I would work closely with the CEO on my findings, and together we would develop a game plan. And it might involve moving a certain leader to another position. It would probably more than likely end up in some serious one-on-one coaching with one or more leaders, and tailoring workshops for management, or even putting them through my EQ booster camp. We're building a new bridge, a metaphorical bridge here for the company, because the future of the company depends on it.
Makes sense. So how long does this process take, and how long do you typically work with your clients?
Well, it might take 6 months to a year to start seeing great results. It takes this long because the average person can thoroughly develop only one new habit at a time, like we discussed earlier. So my metaphorical bridge, you can't build an entire bridge overnight, right? But it can be built one steel beam at a time. Now, if it's just bridge repair, a minor issue, It might take 4 to 6 months to where your leader has learned how to re-engage with their employees by developing meaningful dialogue. Meaningful dialogue leads to actions, to true actions that are repetitive, that the employees get promised something and the leader actually delivers. Then the employees will start trusting the leader again. Now, almost immediately, you'll start seeing employee engagement and happiness improving, but we're in it for the long haul here, not short-term gains. Now, another project I do with people is rebuild their reputation on either an individual level or a corporate level. Now, that'll take probably a year or more because we're focused on the hot buttons that destroyed the bridge in the first place. For example, I have a manager that yells a lot. Nobody in the company likes working with them. They can distance themselves a little bit, but the employees are stuck with someone that gets mad because he's overstressed, for example. We'll have to dig down and find out what his reactions are, or what are the situations that trigger those reactions. So that's part of the self-awareness program. Then we work on self-managing. Every time that he feels the pressure build up of, somebody's hitting his hot button, how does he deal with it? Does he train himself to walk away from the situation, or to maybe do some visual imagery of something that is very benign to where he won't react in this way? Then we'll work on social awareness, putting himself in the shoes of his employee. In the beginning, if he had done this, he would feel pretty bad about yelling because, walk a mile in my shoes kind of thing, right? And a lot of times managers are so bent on getting the numbers, and they have a pile of work that needs to be done, and they feel so much responsibility that they forget they're working with humans with emotions and feelings. So it's about developing a relationship, a communication bridge back and forth with the employees to feel empathy, and then get feedback, honest feedback from his employees. And he can only do that by leveling the playing field and being metaphorically one with them. United vision, but putting human back into the business world, so to speak. And then for people that are stuck, with a glass ceiling and they want to advance to upper management or the C-suite, I put my clients through a program I call the 6 C's of C-suite. And the 6 C's are chemistry, culture, champion, change, competency, and the clock. Now, the clock comes first as we assess whether or not it's in the best interests of the client to even pursue advancement in that particular company. Oftentimes, upper management, on the other hand, will want me to work with candidates in their leadership pipeline. So we'll focus on specific areas of growth as indicated by the company.
Okay. So, and what do you think maybe are some misconceptions between the C-suite and the management teams? Because, you got your C-suite, you got your management, and then you got your everyday employee that works underneath. What are some misconceptions or misunderstandings between the C-suite and, their upper management team, upper level management?
I can respond to this from the middle level. I see it over and over, like a mid-level or senior manager. They will feel that their entire skill toolbox is underutilized, just like I did when I felt that nobody was paying me to be innovative, and that made me feel bad because I can invent stuff all day long, right? Mid-management folks, they have lots of skills in their toolbox, and all they're supposed to do is shuffle papers. So they crave more autonomy because they feel they could do just as good a job as the CEO. But on the other hand, these same managers, they grew up with certain mindsets about how to lead people, and oftentimes end up that they use fear-based management tactics because they view that their employees have less than ideal skills in their toolbox. Managers feel that they need to handle their employees because they fear that their employees can't be trusted to achieve on their own. So that's why I advocate managers shifting from a boss mentality to a coaching mentality. That takes a lot of the stress out of the situation and makes everybody feel that they're on their own journey upward.
So earlier you were talking about EQ Booster Camp. What is all involved in your program, and how does that benefit companies that enroll in it?
Well, the EQ Booster, that's a 3-day intensive workshop with field trips that hone in on the 4 categories of emotional intelligence: self-awareness, self-managing, social awareness, and relationship management skills. It's designed for managers or managerial teams. I've even had board members attend. And we combine workshop training with field trips, either in their immediate area or sometimes in other countries. And this is guaranteed to shake loose and move their emotional intelligence up several notches of the EQ scale. And the program results in deep inner reset, should we say, of how managers relate to their employees and their leaders and their peers and their families and to humanity at large.
So if you had a couple nuggets of advice for C-suite dealing with their upper level management team and the upper level management dealing with the employees, how to make the working environment they're currently in a better place, what would they be?
Great question. I would say from C-suite to their managers, look, here's our vision. Help me refine it. Help us refine it if it's not powerful enough. And then take this vision to your people and have it carry through everything that they do. Everything has to point to the vision for our corporation because we want to change the world in our own way. And then the managers to the employees, look at them as human beings. Treat them with respect. Search out their skills that you might not know about. Get to know them on a one-on-one basis. Please do. Start saying thank you and be appreciative of your employees because I see that as the number one problem. Well, you get paid for doing that, so I don't have to thank you. A little nicety goes a long way. In turn, I would say for employees, advice for employees to their managers is see them as human. And whatever their triggers are, whatever they've got on their plate, cut them a little slack and work with them towards that vision. And the entire company will benefit.
So basically, what you're saying is instead of looking at people for their positions, start looking at people as humans and understand that they have different stresses and different things that are going on in their life, or their requirements for business, and not to just kind of take people for granted because, well, they get paid. Whether it be the bottom end employee, well, you get paid to do that. Maybe it's management. Well, you get paid to do that. You know what I mean? So I can see where that could be tossed around a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wanted to get a hold of you for your services, how would they go about doing it?
They can go to my website, www.brainshift.com. And Brainshift is spelled brain and then SHFT. Or they could reach me at Tamra at brainshift.com.
Okay, great. And do you do any consultations? How do you know if a company's right for you, if somebody reaches out to you? How does that process start? They contact your website and then what?
Yeah, we'll do a 30-minute interview with each other to see if we're a good fit for each other. And then we'll take it from there.
Okay, so that way you guys can kind of see, that way you can understand what the problems are and they can understand, what kind of solutions you can offer.
Usually within the first 30 minutes, we can identify an initial game plan.
All right. Well, Tamra, I love your outlook on employee engagement, and the fact that you reach all the way across the company makes you very valuable to bring in as if I'm running a large company and I'm having problems, somebody who can adapt and adjust to all levels of management would be a huge asset. So I think what you're doing is very powerful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's my personal vision, is to make workplaces better for everyone involved.
Yep, there's a lot of that needed out there. So there's no lack in that, I can tell you that. All right. Well, you guys have just heard from Tamra, and she likes to bridge the gap between C-Suite and their employees. Her contact information will be listed below here on the show notes. Thanks for listening, and this is your host, Alicia DeBrell from Insight Media. Until next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.